Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Junk Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Junk Be Gone studio for our Christmas episode. Frosty, not unlike Tennessee last night in Columbus, has melted. We're going to be doing, look, it's a breakdown. It was an ugly loss. We'll take it apart piece by piece. I don't think, you're not going to get any sugar coating on today's show. At the same time, we've been doing Christmas specials on this show since 2004. We launched in 2003, but our first Christmas show was 2004. So we're going to continue to have our fun. No, the red you're going to see on the set today is not Ohio State red. It's Christmas red. And to give you an idea of what we're talking about, UT, before this game, said, "Oh, come all ye faithful." 35,000, thereabout, Tennessee fans made the trip to Columbus, an unbelievable showing, and then it turned into a silent night in Columbus. And now, when it comes to Josh Heupel, it's a story of chestnuts roasting on an open fire. That's the kind of stuff we'll be doing today. Christmas and football all in one. Let's get into it. First segment of our show, brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. As always, with our Christmas shows, our clients, all of our sponsors, and especially Junk Be Gone and the Such family, they want to wish you and yours a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. We thank them and all of our sponsors for bringing you today's show and every show throughout the year. JunkBeGone.biz to learn more. All right, let's welcome in some of the best Christmas decor you'll see anywhere around. VFL Willover Street in red. VFL Mike Stoll, you understand the spirit, my friend. Right over here, always love the red jacket on VFL Marlon Walls. And Bob, you needed an ugly sweater for the show, and you went out and found one.
Yes, I did.
So congratulations, thanks for being here. We won't talk about where you found it, because by saying it's an ugly sweater, I might have just insulted someone out there.
Somebody out
who
there
recognizes
saying, "Look,
it.
that's Daddy's sweater."
Yeah, there we go. All right, and we got more people over on the side, so we got a packed show for you today. For those who clucked all week that cold weather wouldn't matter, go ask Dylan Sampson's hamstring. I talked to some friends of mine in Columbus that said, we've never seen so many people go down last night. Tennessee had guys hurt all over the field. Ohio State fans thought they were faking injuries at some point, but the problem is a lot of those guys would go down and not come back in. So that and the helmet crack on Nico, the only other time I saw that was Patrick Mahomes last year in a cold weather game.
Yep.
Cold weather does make an impact. So you were without Dylan Sampson for most of the game, and UT's offense without Dylan Sampson is Bedford Falls without George Bailey. That was the Pottersville offense last night. Okay, I'll end. I had to get that one in there. That's good. Let's talk about top takeaways, though. From a beat down, Marlon, we've been texting this year and talked on the phone a couple times when you really got hot. You've got a point you've made over and over, and it came home last night again. I'll let you start there because I know it's your top takeaway.
First of all, man, I've got to say, great job to the staff. They've won 30 games in the last 3 years. That's a big deal. From where Tennessee came from, where we've got it now, how he ignited the program. That's amazing. But I've got to say, there's one moment that reminded me of last night, 2010 LSU, where we have the infamous play where the ball snaps over the guy's head. We've got 15 players on the field. And what had happened was too many coaches were giving signals that don't normally give signals.
Right.
And I remember us going into that team meeting room, and Gerald Williams was sitting right next to me, and he came in and he said, if they come in and say anything to us about players, you didn't do this, I'm going to go off. That's how I feel about last night. I thought last night we did not do a great job with the players. We did not set them up for success, offensively or defensively. I can go through from schemes, just me watching, knowing what they're doing. I don't think we set them up for success. We stayed in 2x2 the entire night last night. We ran some trips, but there was no motions, no shifts, nothing to get Ohio State's defense to move around or look confused or to get off what they're doing. And I felt like last night I had that same feeling that I had at LSU. This is on the coaches.
It looked even worse because on the other side of the ball, you had an offense that looked dreary
they moved
against
every
Michigan.
play.
And they looked at it and they said, Tennessee's been struggling since Peeling went out. They've been struggling against motion, jet action. We're going to move our receivers around. And Chip Kelly, who, if you want a chess master to do that, it's Chip Kelly. He targeted Tennessee.
Yep.
He dialed it up and gave them what they couldn't handle. We didn't see that.
No.
And we haven't seen a lot of that this year. It's kind of we do what we do.
Yep. And I mean, if you look at the game last night from a schematic standpoint, I can guarantee, and I was telling my wife this, I can guarantee Chip Kelly had about 30 players that he was like, you know what, we don't need those. Let's save them for next week because they can't stop this. This simple motion is causing confusion. We didn't do that. We didn't counter that with any of our own, and that right there had me frustrated. And as a former player, man, I would be upset today when I wake up that we were out, we were not prepared, and we had 3 weeks to get ready.
Top takeaways, gentlemen. You can play off that or go with your own.
Yeah, it definitely was disappointing, the defense, because when you looked at it and you said, what is the last couple of weeks, anybody that's had success, what have they done? And what do you think the other coaching team's going to do? They're going to come out with a set of plays and say, have you gotten any better at this, or are you still struggling? And they found out pretty quick we hadn't gotten any better and we hadn't solved it yet. And so they're going to do that all night long. I think the other thing that just continually disappointed me as well is your wide receiver core. When they showed the back shots, looking at that part of where you can see from the quarterback's perspective, you didn't see anybody get off of wide receiver. They were on tight, and there was nobody getting open. And so I just looked at that and just go, we definitely do not have the talent. And I think you could probably say overall in the game, talent gap was defined for you of where you are compared to some other people.
All right.
Yeah, I'd say, much like this outfit, it was ugly last night. I mean, just plain ugly. Coaching, players, everything. I think you saw a situation where those players come out, they're not doing the things they need to do. You get whipped, and so as a football player, you play football and you draw on that physicality. You draw on the fact that, all right, I got to put on equipment and try and beat somebody up.
Yeah.
You do that in the street, you end up going to jail, but you can do it on a field. And they did not take advantage of the fact that I'm just going to beat somebody up across from me. We were not physical. We were outcoached, and at the same time, plain old ugly. It just wasn't a good performance.
I think I think I was texting with you guys last night. And at one point, I said, it's like everything we've talked about all season. The offensive line was a problem early in the season. Your receivers had a couple games where they showed up, but for the most part, we kept going back to the receivers. Everything we pointed to all came home to roost last night. You're not giving them anything different. You're not scheming something new. Bob, your top takeaway from last night?
My top takeaway from last night was, and I got to work this in, my granddaughter June was born Thursday night. After Ohio State's second touchdown, I swear she goes, uh-oh. But because to me what really stood out, and everything you're saying, Marlon, is 100% correct, and what you guys are talking about. But you know how you say, well, if those two teams played 10 times, Tennessee would win 2. If those two teams played 10 times, Ohio State would win 12. I mean, it was just the talent gap. I had made up my mind that this was the old Big Ten. This is the SEC. We're going to be more athletic than they are. They haven't seen this kind of speed. And, I mean, I was wrong from 5 minutes into the ball game to the whistle blew. I mean, the talent gap to me is what just jumped out.
That's a $20 million roster that they have. They spent $20 million on it. It is, most people going into the season felt it was the best roster in the country. They played one bad game against Michigan. And I think we all overreacted to it and wondered.
Exactly.
I think it was legit to ask, okay, what's their mentality going to be? Because we pointed out last week, the last 10 times they've lost to Michigan, they've won 3 games after that. Okay, so that's legit. What I didn't take into consideration was it wasn't just are they going to be down and you could take the crowd out of it, or are they going to be normal? I didn't factor in, or are they going to want to take their frustrations out on somebody and you have the bad fortune of being the punching bag? And that is what I thought would happen. Bob, last week, I want to show this again. We had it on a YP board last week. Let's go ahead and show the numbers. Tennessee and Ohio State, this is 24/7. This isn't going back through the last recruiting classes, and it's a little off because transfer. What they do before the season is they look at the actual roster as it stands right now and check those guys to see who were the 4s and 5s. So this is legitimately what the rosters were. Ohio State had 71 4 and 5 stars on that roster. Tennessee had 41. Okay. I mean, so the idea that we thought it could be close due to their mentality, I don't think that's wrong, but we should have paid more attention to that and said, yeah, it's possible, but it's likely you're going to get keel-hauled.
They have on their defense, they have 3 guys that are projected to go in the first round in the NFL. Those guys had an impact last night. We've got 1 guy on their defense projected to go in the first round of the draft. And how much did he do? How many?
1 play.
1 play.
Yeah.
You know, didn't see.
But they were able to drop him into coverage.
Yeah,
Now,
that's great.
maybe he would have been better if he had more guys around him.
Yes.
But here's what I would say to that, too, because I saw that as well, right? I knew that 2 defensive ends were legit. We would line up in trips, and we'd have a receiver that was tight enough to where he could chip a guy as he's going out on this route. We didn't do it. And so they were able to tee off on Nico. We know we got tackle trouble. Our 2 tackles are not very good. Just being honest, it's been that way all season.
Yeah.
And we did not help out at all. That was my issue.
Let me ask you this. Was this a bad night where you didn't have all your team? And to be honest with you, the Dylan Sampson thing, it was a roll, but I think it was the difference between 42-17 and 42-24, 42-28. I think they still clean your clocks even if he plays, even if your receivers are out there, because I didn't see much from that receiving core all year anyway. Was that a bad night where guys were hurt? You're going in against a ticked-off opponent, cold weather. Was it just everything conspired against you and it got away from you? Or was that, that was an awakening that we better not talk about national championships here until we have a roster like that? Was that a bad night, or was that exposure?
Exposure. I think it's just like the cold weather. It was exposure. You felt it. And just looking on the tape and just watching the game, like you said, you saw the players play, and you were like, that guy's better, that guy's better. I mean, which one of you guys do you start trading for if you go back through the roster and say, who would I put on my team and who would I trade? Who has the better hand? I think you're going to see more guys you'd want off Ohio State than they'd want off our team.
First time I've ever mentioned soccer here, but there's a soccer thing they do in soccer coverage where they're going to a game and each team has 11 guys that play, and it will be, all right, what's your 11 for this game? And you're picking the best player at this position and this position. You go back and you say, well, they've got 6 guys on this list. You got 5. Do that with Tennessee and Ohio State last night. Who were the top 22? We got 18 from Ohio State, 20. Yeah. I mean, it's up there.
And to answer the question, I think it was exposure, because we've seen this Tennessee offense sort of all season in different situations. It was the offense you saw at Oklahoma, Arkansas, first half against Florida, first half against Alabama. So you have seen this, but you were able to win most of those ball games because they didn't have the 97 5-star guys that Ohio State did.
Let me throw out one last thing here, and just to see your faces. Let's get a nice shot of everybody. Earlier this week on Monday, Josh Heupel made a joke as if he wanted Ryan Day to not prepare for anything special. He said at a press conference, "We have nothing new defensively, offensively, or special teams. We'll be exactly what we've done." And then he smiled as if, don't practice for it. Did they have anything new offensively, defensively, or special teams?
No.
Okay. Mike, yay or nay?
I don't think they did.
You know my answer.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a packed show. We're going to talk about the beatdown. At the same time, we're going to try and raise everybody's spirits, not only in your house, but also here. Mike, it'll be okay.
Therapy.
Oh, gosh. Sterling brought a support dog in with him. When we come back, the key plays and key decisions that decided last night's game. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. The Hines family, generation after generation of them right there at A.G. Hines Company. They wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We appreciate all that they do for this show, and I appreciate what they do for me. aghines.com to learn more. All right, let's meet the next 4 panelists on today's show. We have right down here in his green and red, Chuck Cavaleris. You got the ugly sweater memo, VFL Ollie Lane right here, wearing the green, VFL Kevin Simon right there. Look, always dapper. Look at that.
Hey!
And you got back from Columbus about 15 minutes ago.
15 minutes ago up the highway. Just up the
VFL
highway.
Sterling Hinton, I will say, the fact that I swear if you got launched to the wrong side of the moon, you would be back here in time for the Sports Source. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right.
Man of the people.
That's right. Let's do a poll question for you real quick. Get your take on this. Some of you have already been voting online. How will you remember the Vols 2024 season? We got a little Ebenezer Scrooge faces there. Will it be, huzzah, we made the playoffs? Or will it be, humbug, lost in the playoffs? You tell us. It looks like right now the majority, the slight majority, saying, huzzah, we made the playoffs. How will you remember this season? And I know it's dangerous to ask that 12 hours after a beating, but still, get on your phones under the Hearthside Bank there, click the QR code, play along with us, let us know what you think about this season. Okay, gentlemen, you heard the other guys do their top takeaways. I said this was going to be key plays, key decisions. To heck with that. Just give me your top takeaways. Kevin, you heard us talking talent. You're a former NFL scout. A lot more NFL talent on that Ohio State roster, I think.
Yeah, without question. But the thing that really stands out to me is coaching matters. So when you look at Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, the game plan that Chip Kelly had against Michigan, Chip Kelly said after that game, stupid game plan. We threw it one time to Jeremiah Smith in the second half. He's like, we tried to outrush him, stupid game plan. He's like, that's on me, right? So you knew that you're going to get a different game plan against our Vols. And Ryan Day said it after the game. He said, good game. He's like, heck of a game called by Chip Kelly. Was an aggressive game plan where we try to take advantage of our strengths and minimize our deficiencies. As I'm watching the game, watching the play action, watching the eye candy, watching the slipper play, hit the guy for 5 yards, watching him stay ahead of the chains, I'm like, that's what we need to be doing. So coaching matters. I was listening to Pete Carroll the other day, and he was talking about Bill Walsh and what Bill Walsh taught him. He's taught him that the quarterback is the toughest position to play in professional sports. So being the toughest position to play, and you know all about this, you got to make things easier on the quarterback. You got to build around him, right? So you have to make things easier. So what that looked like for the Seattle Seahawks, that was getting an attitude guy like Marshawn Lynch, building a defense, so then it wasn't all on the quarterback. Mm-hmm. We got to build around Nico to where it's not all on him. And you saw with the wide receivers and just with the offensive line, it's all on him right now, and that's unfair to him. So we got to do a better job. You got to get more playmakers on the offense.
Especially last night, I thought at the end of that first quarter, it kind of looked like Heupel almost said, well, we got nothing else. Let's just make it the Nico show. They ran him more than they had all year, which just looked, the fact they haven't run him like that all year screamed to me that, hell, I don't know, we got nothing else, just run him. It seemed like they were, like all the pages were ripped for their playbook, and they just had Nico, and they put it all on him.
Seemed like they panicked to me. I mean, I watched it, and it seemed like after the face mask, right? And I know one play is not going to change that outcome.
No, but that was a pretty big call.
That was like the energy left the building to me. That you think you're going to get a sack, our defensive line's going to show up, we're going to get going, we're going to make the fans turn on Ohio State, which they were so ready to do, and instead it's the penalty. What, 2 or 3 plays later, they score. And your single coverage on the outside against receivers, you don't adjust to the motion. John, I texted you. All of that motion on the 27-yard touchdown run made it 21-0. They motion left. 3 Tennessee defenders go with it. It's wide open to run it up the middle and then outside. I mean, we can watch this. Why can't the coaches?
Holly, Sterling, top takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of what you said, that was my most disappointing aspect of this game is just the way our defense is, what our saving grace all season, the ones that have defended the offense, I mean, they just rolled over last night. And it was pretty apparent after that face mask from the sack that it was just almost looked like they checked out. And you see, like, the antics and stuff in pregame, they were all juiced up. I wonder if they blew that juice level a little too early because they came out flat after that. There was nothing exciting, nothing new happening on, and especially offensively, again, very vanilla, nothing out of the ordinary when you lose a guy like Dylan Sampson halfway through the game. It's going to affect an offense that doesn't have extra things to go to.
Sterling, top takeaway.
Top takeaway, well, I'm piggybacking what everybody said about that face mask on the sack, because I was there. And let me tell you something. Before the game, they were just waiting to fire somebody. I'm not gonna say any names. It was hot up there. It was cold weather, but it was hot.
Right.
The seat was hot. And that face mask happened, and like the whole vibe just changed. And with us not having our super athletic guys, Dylan Sampson back there running the ball, it's hard to get a juiced offense that we depended on him to get us over those humps, to get the momentum back on our side. It was an unfortunate situation. We ran into a buzzsaw last night.
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead. You want to jump?
Yeah, so the one thing is that just surprised me, the best we've seen this offense was against Georgia. That first drive, that first half, it's the best game. It's, in my opinion, it's Heupel's best game that he's called since he's been here. It's a lot easier when you got Jalen Hyatt running by people to call the game. This, with these guys he's playing with, it was a great game call. Get them in a rhythm. It basically looked a lot like how Ohio State's game plan was. So for us to not ever get back to doing that, I get it. We could go drop back pass and throw against Vanderbilt, but it's Vanderbilt. All right, so on the first series, you run the ball, get stuffed. Drop back pass, doesn't work out, nobody's open. Drop back pass, all right, 3 and out. Next drive, all right, drop back pass, nothing. Run the football, nothing. Try to throw a screen, batted. Like you start the game and you got those 2 3 and outs. It just wasn't a QB friendly game plan. And then the last thing I'm gonna say, it was the 5th drive of the game. It's the first time that they've run Nico on more than one design run in a series all season long,
right?
Which was good. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Moving forward, Nico's legs have to be a part of the equation to move this offense.
And I want to be clear. I don't have a problem with him using him and running him more. I thought they should have run him more all year. I just thought it looked desperate last night because you haven't done it all year. You're throwing for 100 yards. Sampson's out. It just looked like run Nico. It didn't look like they planned it. It looked like it's all we got. It's the only bullet we got in the gun. Because if they had done that more all year, I would have given them credit last night. It just seemed to be more of a parachute last night than anything. Any other quick last takes?
My last take was it was entirely too easy for Ohio State, no matter what they called. And it was entirely too difficult for Tennessee. And you just can't play a championship level game and have that kind of performance.
Here's my last takeaway. This playoff seeding is nonsense because you're going to see what should be the national championship game in the quarterfinals in the Rose Bowl next week. Because I think Oregon and Ohio State are probably the 2 best teams in this nation. They played the first game that looked like it, and now they're playing in a quarterfinals because the bracket's all screwy. I think that Ohio State team with that roster and the numbers we showed you in the first segment, they're as good as anybody. It'll be interesting to see if they can get up again after that huge win that they just had against Tennessee. All right, when we come back, what area of the game gets the biggest lump of coal? Offense, defense, coaching, or the talent gap, which would also be kind of coaching. Come on back. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by the River Cove Campground, Uncle Jim's River Cove Campground, and that's the same fine people that you find at Parkside Cabin Rentals. And that's the Ogle family, and they want to send you and yours the very best of holiday wishes this season. They hope you have a very Merry Christmas, as all of our sponsors do here, and we thank them for being such a big part of this show year in and year out, and I thank them personally. All right. There were no gifts in the stocking after last night's game. Nobody deserves anything. So what area gets the biggest lump of coal? We're just handing out lumps of coal. And Bob, we were talking last night after the game, and you threw this out. I threw a 4th topic in here, but you were like, what's the biggest concern? Your offense, the defense, the coaching, and I'll throw in the talent gap, which also goes back to coaching because they build the roster. It's your question. I'll save your answer for the last. Do you want to go? You go. You go first.
No, because I'm trying to remember what I said last night. I've slept since then.
Then I'll start with Sterling.
Go ahead.
Sterling.
Lumber coal goes to the NIL. We got to get more money into our roster, baby. Need more money into it, baby.
So the talent gap.
Well, you know.
You got to give out one. You got to offense, defense, coaching, or talent gap.
You know, based on last night's game, it was just Tennessee players and people on the field just had a bad day, man.
No, you got to give a lump of coal to one of those 4 things.
Had a bad day.
You got to.
A lump of coal to the field conditions at Ohio State. in the horseshoe. All
right, Marlon. I think you said it in the first segment.
Yeah. I'm going to go coaching staff, and here's the reason why. When you think of talent gap, what can I do schematically to close the gap? And you've got to do something scheme-wise to close the gap. I go back to Georgia versus Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago. Georgia Tech was in that ball game. Why? They did a lot of shifts and motions, got Georgia's defense a little confused. That's how you close the talent gap. So my lump of coal goes to the coaching staff because I don't think we did much of that yesterday.
When they first got here with this offense, we thought that much like the single wing, much like chucking a bunch of threes. This tempo was supposed to be an equalizer.
Yeah.
Well, they don't play with as much tempo.
They don't play with the tempo.
So you better scheme something up because you don't have something that will close that gap.
You know, I had thought going into the game, I'd given Heupel a coaching edge. You know, I'm going to.
Ohio State fans are really letting you have it in the comments on our YouTube page.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
they are.
you know, and so if I was going to do it, I would probably have to it would be a lump of cold buffet for me. But if I'm going to pick one,
Don't be Sterling.
I've got to go with the coaching.
Okay. Coaching staff.
I got to go with the coaching staff
Well,
because go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep thinking you're done, but go ahead.
No, I was just saying
No,
with what they've done over there, it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, they've done a tremendous job. You can't say enough about what Heupel has done at the University of Tennessee. But that talent gap, okay, we keep getting 5-star guys, and they don't play. Why are our 5-star guys never playing? Is it because they're not going to play freshmen? I mean, you have the 5-star
Matthews.
offensive lineman they got this year.
Lance Hurd.
Okay, do we see him next year on the field, or is it another case, the Sanders kid?
The guy that just signed.
Or is it another case if we've got this 5-star and we don't hear about him again until he goes into the transfer portal? And so that worries me. That comes back to coaching, I think.
All right, let me see if I can sway anybody here. The offense, it was their fewest yards they'd gained all year. Defense was the most yards they've allowed all year. But all that still goes back to coaching.
Here's what I go back to.
I tried.
Think about when Heupel first took over the job. What kind of roster he inherited?
Oh.
It wasn't very good. Right?
30 guys had left in the portal.
Exactly. Our top guys that end up leaving. Jalen Hyde was not Jalen Hyde. What happened was he's always done more with less. And so I can't even look at last night and say, man, that talent gap, it's huge. Yes, you can see it. But I'm looking at a head coach that's always done more with less talent. And I didn't see enough last night adjustment-wise that showed me, man, we're going to go out swinging. If we're going to lose this thing, let's go out swinging. And I didn't see that last night.
Sterling, get anything, Dad?
What I would like to have seen last night, being there live, some more motion on offense, some more formations. When you missed a big cog like Dylan Sampson not there, his presence alerts attention from the defense. So now the defense got other things to pay attention to. Let's get them confused. I would like to have seen that, but it was an amazing shift of the entire energy inside that horseshoe last night when that face mask happened. An amazing shift.
So you're giving a lump of coal to the refs.
Always. It's always, baby.
Give to Easton, that was a legit call. All right, when we come back, Josh, we kind of touched on this, but now we're going to dig deeper. Josh Heupel has accomplished much, but where is this program moving forward? I saw Twitter last night telling me, he can't win a championship here. Might be time to move on. Let's discuss going back on the Sports Source. Merry Christmas. Welcome back into the Sports Source Christmas episode. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to all of you from the Haynes family. And I thank them for being such a long-term partner of this Sports Source show. And I want to say that to all of our clients as well. But they want to wish you a very Merry Christmas this week. All right, let's remind folks of the poll question, see where it's gone to. It's gone more positive. Well, just having Sterling on the set, it just kind of radiated out, and people were like, yeah, it was a good season. So, huzzah, you made the playoffs, or humbug, lost in the playoffs. You tell us how you're going to remember this season. Back with Mike Stoll, Kevin Simon, Will Overstreet, the VFLs here. Josh Heupel has won 30 games in his last 3 years. He's won an Orange Bowl, a Citrus Bowl, and he made a college football playoff. One of only 3 SEC teams to do that this year. But fans want titles, and they saw an Ohio State roster last night that has been built to win titles. It's better than UT's roster. So, Mike, when it comes to this program, a little Christmas theme here.
Yeah.
When it comes to Tennessee's program, are all their troubles miles away, or are they still somewhat fragile? Where are you going? Troubles miles away? Fragile.
So, again, looking at where the program's come, they're miles away from where they were. But they're fragile as far as, and that's French, right?
Italian.
Oh, is it? Oh, French. Oh, is
Italian.
that what it was?
That's
My
Italian.
bad. So, yeah, I mean, they're making progress. They've made tons of strides, but now all of a sudden it's like, okay, we go into the SEC, we're playing well, we've won some games, we've had 2 10-win seasons, but all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's what it takes to win a national title. Now, we've played Georgia. It's a rival. It's a little bit difficult, but they've come miles as far as where they were, but there's still miles to go. They've got a long journey ahead of them to get to a championship.
Is this program fragile ground, Will Overstreet, or is it stable, safe? You feel good about it? What we just ran through.
It's stable and safe from where we're hitting in the terms of can you win 9 games, 8-9 games consistently kind of thing. But if you're saying, is this one player away, yeah, we're going to get to make a run and be able to beat 3 teams in a playoff series. This team's not built for that right now. Like, they don't have what they need to be able to get through that. So it's fragility in that sense of if you're setting the bar as championships or bust, we're not built for that right now. Setting the bar from, are you a good team that's competitive in a lot of games in the SEC, and can you get to maybe an SEC championship game with the right things? Maybe, but you're not going to do it consistently, and you're not going to be able to go deep in a playoff where you have to face 3 or 4 of these types of teams and beat them.
How many teams are there right now that could do that? I think you got Ohio State, Oregon, maybe Notre Dame.
I think,
Georgia, if they were healthy.
I think
Georgia,
still put Georgia up there healthy.
Texas,
maybe
maybe.
Texas.
If they put it together.
It's not a lot of teams, so it's not a big group.
Right.
But at the same time, if that's the bar,
Right.
you're saying you're nowhere close to that being at that bar.
Kevin, is this program on stable, safe ground? 30 wins in 3. You're averaging 10 wins a year for the last 3 years. Orange, citrus, playoff. Is it on stable ground? Or could this thing tumble? Is it fragile?
Yeah, so it's absolutely on stable ground. But there's an influx that's about to happen. The COVID seniors and guys that were recruited on Pruitt's watch, those guys are about to all be gone, and now it's going to be all on you. We've seen them hit on guys on the defensive line with Rodney Garner. Guys like James Pierce, guys like Josh Joseph, guys like Ty Weatherby, guys like Tyree West from that 2021 class. It's a line of scrimmage league. Mm-hmm. Mike Stoll, who are the guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage that we've hit on offensively? Since Heupel's been here,
none.
We haven't hit on a guy. So you hope that you got one with David Sanders, but there's gonna be an infusion of new talent that comes, and we're gonna see if these guys can elevate their play to rise to the occasion. I think the conversation has to be you got to build around Nico, and to do that at this point, you're probably gonna have to hit the portal hard. They haven't shown that they got a stomach or an appetite to do that. So we'll see what happens next year, but we could take a drop depending on how things unfold in the next 12 months.
We did a question late in the year on the show. Is there anything to give you faith that this team, this coaching staff, can find, can identify and sign top flight offensive linemen, top flight receivers? And we answered no. Every other spot on the field they've kind of been good at. But if you're going to protect the quarterback, those are the 2 areas you need to hit on more than any other. And the best receivers they've had were Pruitt guys. The best offensive linemen they got were Pruitt guys. Yeah. So I do think it is, I would go with fragile. I think it's on stable ground in terms of 10 wins a year. I don't think they'll win 10 every year, but I think they can win 8, 9 a year and then have the 10, 11 wins. But I think it could all go south here if fans are determined. If it's year 4 and you're looking at this and you're saying, we got to make a change because he's not going to win a title. If that stuff grows, then I think you could blow the program up. I would say keep him going because Jim Harbaugh was that guy who couldn't win the big one until he did. Michigan, he had to take a pay cut to stay at Michigan because he kept losing to Ohio State, kept winning 8, 9 games a year, not getting it done. Then he breaks through. Philip Fulmer, you were there at the beginning. It took him forever to get there and break through. So I just think if Tennessee's going to be patient, I think you're fine and you're on stable ground if you'll be patient and see if this guy can develop. But if you're going to be, nope, we have to be like Ohio State, we're going to fire a coach, 10 wins isn't good enough here, get rid of him, then I think you're going to be right back to where you were. Yeah. That's my take. So fragile depending on the reaction to these types of seasons. All right. When we come back, if Tennessee wants to get back to the playoff next year, which position groups have to improve, who has to go on the nice list and get off the naughty list. Come on back. Welcome back. This segment of the Sports Source brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Joe Special and the whole team at Madisonville Marine send along their best holiday wishes to everyone watching the show today. They hope you have a wonderful Christmas on Wednesday. All right, let's take a look at the final poll results. What did we do? It just kept getting bigger and bigger. There you go. So most Vol fans are going to look back and say, huzzah, we made the playoffs in 2024, which, to be honest with you, is probably the way it should be. I mean, 10-3. You made a playoff. I thought you'd be 9-3 this year and not make the playoffs. So they overshot my expectations. The bad thing about losing that last one is the whole season, you view it through that lens. Oh, yeah. You're looking back through that beatdown in Columbus and everything else, and it sours it all. But 10-3, not a bad year. All right, not a bad year. That's a good year. All right. You lose like that, though, and the whole season looks like it was crap. If you want a roster without holes, you got to spend $20 million like Ohio State did, and then get about 5 straight top 10 classes as well. So you got some work to do. But if the Vols want to reach the playoff next year, give me 3 position groups that have to move to the nice list next year. I think we've touched on it all, but I want to know, rank them, 1, 2, 3. What is the most important position to get on the nice list next year, Will Overstreet?
Most important, the single one, the wide receiver.
I agree.
You have to get more play production out of that group. You have to have guys that can take a 5-yard catch, make one guy miss out in the perimeter, and go down the field. The reason this offense works is when you're spacing people out, it puts guys on islands, and they have to be able to make tackles. You got to have somebody that can break a tackle and can catch a ball. And those kinds of things we need to get back to, and that's where this offense has been hurt the most, I think.
And normally I would say offensive line is more important than receiver, but I'm with you. I think it's receiver because we saw enough times this year where either Nico overshot a guy or they just dropped it. So you had time to make the connection. You know, he was under pressure a lot this year. The offensive line had some question marks, especially at tackle. But it was good enough that if you'd hit 2 more of those bombs a game, okay, it's back to 2022. You put 14 extra points on every game this year, we're looking at 2022 again. So to me, I agree with Will. I think receiver's the most important. Who do we have a debate on that? Am I think offensive line? Am I think another position group?
I don't know. I definitely agree. I think the wide receivers need the most improvement. Obviously, I mean, offensive line I think is going to have a complete rework next year. I mean, you're losing 3 to 4 of your starters coming, and then all your reserve guys that you've been rolling through this year on the offensive line. But I think their problems wouldn't have been as highlighted if we had more open receivers running routes and stuff like that. I mean, you saw it last night. Whenever we saw the back shot, there was nobody open. Nowhere for Nico to go. He had to hold the ball for a long time, and that ends to pressures and sacks and him having to get out and try to make something with his feet, which he did a lot of last night. But, I mean, not having that wide receiver room that we were told the best is yet to come all season, the best – I'm still waiting for the best to come.
Wait
and now the
next
season's
year.
over, so –
you agree receivers is the top position or no?
I've been browbeating the wide receivers for 2 years.
Yeah,
so. But no, to me it's the offensive line because based upon the guys that you have exiting the building, arguably you're losing 5 guys, five of your 6, because Dane Davis, for all intents and purposes, he's a starter. Because really he's played I think more snaps than James Campbell on the season, and really he's been better than him, marginally, but he's been better than him. So you're losing 5 guys. That's a lot. So you're talking about a starting 4 and a 6th man. That's a big hill to climb. So they got to get that part right. You're hoping David Sanders, he's uniquely talented. Listen, he's like a dancing bear. He's like a unicorn. The way he can move his feet, special. But he's 285 pounds. You're going to have to put a little bit of weight on him. Got to get him on the field, right? They haven't shown that they got an appetite to play young players. Yeah. And then the other side is the receivers, without question. Jason Swain and I, we did a show, and we had Austin Price on. And Austin Price mentioned last week that they're going after offensive line, they're going after defensive line, but they're not targeting wide receivers. I felt like somebody stabbed me in the heart. I was like, what? I was like, why not? Because I just feel like if you got eyeballs, you understand that the wide receiver position has to be addressed. And let's say if you didn't know before last night, now you got to know that you got to go get some more wide receivers.
Third position I would throw, and I want to what's your third position from everybody? We all agree receivers and offensive line are probably 1, 2. I'm going to say linebackers because once Keenan Peeling went down this year, that group was kind of exposed. You're going to need linebackers. That's where I'm going. You agree?
Absolutely. I think you've gotten more talent. Speed has been upgraded at that position, but you're not able to do the guy that makes the calls to get people in the right positions. Your run fits are not good a lot of the times. So I think you have to improve there to really be it.
Kevin, just one word answer.
Safeties.
Safeties. One word answer.
I'm going to throw running backs. Just from what I saw when Dylan Sampson was out of that game last night, did not have much production from that running back room.
Very good. All right. When we come back, let's try to raise those spirits. We've got some Christmas-themed football questions. Smart alecky stuff coming next on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Daniel and his team want you and yours to have a very Merry Christmas this week. You've seen in his ads the last few weeks just how into the holiday spirit he has been. DanielHoodRoofing.com. All right. A couple of Christmas-themed questions for you. Number one. All season, people have looked forward to the new playoff like it was the down payment on a new swimming pool. But now, no one likes how the teams are picked, how they're seeded, and all 4 games have been awful blowouts. So, is the 12-team playoff really just the Jelly of the Month club? Gentlemen, whoever wants to jump in and take it.
That's a dessert that keeps on giving the whole year, Clark. But I think it's the first rendition. They're going to have to make some changes. Clearly, I mean, you've got Arizona State and Boise State sitting there with a bye week.
Your favorite, Boise State, Mr. Idaho.
And so are they one of the best 8 left? No, absolutely not. But it's a flawed system still. You thought going to 12 would make it better. I think it's caused a lot of confusion. And you got to understand what we're aiming for, right? Is it just pure records? Is it wins, losses only? Is it strength of schedule? What is it? It's all over the map, so we don't know. They've got to fix that.
Is it a disappointment? Is it the Jelly of the Month club?
I think it is a disappointment, and I'll tell you why. A part of that's just based on the first 4 games in the playoff. And then you look at the teams that didn't get in. You're going to have all those arguments. But it is a disappointment because there was too much eye test going on, John. You could have had a combination of like the coaches poll, the AP poll, 20%. Put Nick Saban in charge instead of letting these bozos call.
Put a computer in charge.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Is it just disappointment?
Disappointment. Yeah, no doubt. I think they got to get the teams better.
Disappointment?
Yeah, no, it's a disappointment. You know, normally I don't like all the things that Kirby Smart says, but I think he said something smart when the seedings came out. You can't act like every single conference is equal, because it's not. These conferences, these teams are not equal. You have to truly look at the talent, look at the teams, what they did, and seed them based on that.
In a different world where you're not putting those conference champions up there, the Boise States and Arizona States, Tennessee is probably hosting SMU or Indiana last night.
Yes.
We may be having a whole different show today.
Different story.
So I'm not, then trust me, they would still run into Ohio State or Oregon at some point, and that would be, but still. All right, next one. Let's go to the next graphic here. Next question. There we go. In A Christmas Carol, Scrooge has a terrible revelation when he wipes snow from the tombstone and realizes that he was the awful man who died that people were talking about. Big Ten fans have complained for years about having to play SEC teams in hot, humid bowls, and SEC fans laughed and mocked them. Did SEC fans come to the realization last night that there really is something of a home climate advantage? Did the SEC realize last night that, okay, yeah, we have been beating them down here in the heat. We don't want to go to cold in December.
Well,
No.
I'll tell you what, how much did it affect Ohio State and Ohio State's passing game, and how much did it affect Tennessee? Yeah, it had to. So you pointed out how Tennessee comes running out for the game, what shirt's on. Yeah, here we are. Look how tough we are. There had to be something to it. The both teams playing in the same weather. I get that. But that was 25 degrees, tied for the coldest kickoff in school history. Yeah, there was something to that.
No, every player is going to say the weather doesn't affect you. It's a mentality. It affects you to some point in time in a game, especially like that, in a high-pressure game. You're going to think of all the factors that are going in that you could blame a poor performance on, and I'm sure the weather is now something they're going to say, yeah, it affected us a little bit.
Well, and if you got a tight hamstring, it's not good to be out in the cold.
Yes.
Yeah. Marlon, do you believe now that, or you might have believed it before, do you believe the Big Ten crying that, well, we always get to play them in hot heat. What if we got them up north? And SEC fans have mocked that. Did they learn their lesson last night or no?
100%. So much so that we didn't motion a shift to anybody.
They were so cold they were frozen.
We couldn't move. So it was, 100%.
Frozen in place. Okay. Mike?
I don't think it makes a difference in the game last night. Yeah.
You're a Boise man.
Internally, as an offense in an interior, it doesn't bother you that much. The skills guys, yeah, and especially the ball, the oils in the pigskin get a little bit different, grasping it. But when you can't throw the ball to your receivers, it doesn't matter.
All right, very good. When we come back, we got some more Christmas questions. We got 2 about the Vols specifically. Those are the big picture. Now we got a couple about the Vols. We're also going to rank this season in terms of the best of the last 20 years, 24 years, which, if you're feeling bad about this year, wait till I show you how it compares to the last 24 years. And then we'll also take a look at the 2025 schedule and make our way too early predictions on Tennessee's record next year. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. The folks at Safety Systems are enjoying their 25th Christmas as a company this year, and they hope yours is especially merry too. They appreciate all the East Tennessee families and businesses who've trusted them over the years. They hope you have a great holiday season. Okay, a couple more Christmas themed questions for the guys here. Let's go to the first one. All right. Kevin McAllister showed that when things went wrong and he was home alone, he can handle the situation all by himself. Has Nico Iamaleava shown you any signs, that next year he can become the kind of quarterback who can raise a team's fortunes all on his own?
I think he has. I think what Nico did yesterday and what he did in the Georgia game and what he did against Vanderbilt shows I think he has improved throughout the season. And, all on his own, no, he needs help. He needs the old man with the shovel coming in there at the end and whomping the guys at the end of the movie. But, yeah, I think Nico has shown that home alone, he's okay. He's not great. He's not there yet, but he's getting there.
Okay, agree, disagree?
Well, I would say if the coaching staff acts like Marv and Harry and just keeps doing stupid things over and over and over again, he doesn't have a chance. But if they grow and learn and the coaching staff does some changes, maybe we get Marvin in here, fax him a couple of plays or text him some plays, but I think it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I think they need more stuff, like I said. I think, if you said take the same wide receiver core and go into next year, I don't think you're going to have that great a year. I think you got to get some players and makers. And Nico is going to get better, but you still, as a quarterback, if you're on a bad team as a quarterback, especially like in the NFL and any of these places, you get the heck beat out of you, and you don't do very well. So he's got to have some more people on him.
In terms of guys here at Tennessee who raised the people around him, I think you could say now he had Alvin Kamara and Jalen Hurd, but Josh Dobbs was a guy who was a one-man team lifter. I don't know that I've seen that from Nico yet. Doesn't mean he can't develop it. I just don't know. I've seen it yet. Marlon?
I go back to the scene where, he stole Dad's credit card and he got to buy all the cookies and candy and all the rest of that. I think if you let him do his thing, figure out what he likes, what he don't like from a route combination, what he likes to do at the receiver position, I think he can be that guy.
All right, very good. Next one. Here we go. This was a fun one. You got Ralphie and the old man there. What one mistake, one decision, one position group, whatever, left you over and over this year saying fudge like Ralphie Parker? What left you repeatedly saying fudge?
Dude, watching those offensive tackles, man, it's awful. I mean,
it's not the kicker? No, I was expecting something on quarterback.
He was the only guy that did the right thing last night. He was the only one that did his job right. He's the only one.
Well, that's the only time you'll ever hear Mike Stoll say the kicker did his job right.
Yeah, it's a Christmas miracle.
All right, so tickle. Tackles.
Tickle the tackles. I'm not tickled with the tackles because they're awful. Terrible.
Okay. Any other takes? What's left you saying fudge?
I got to go with the offensive line, too. Last night they had a play. It was one of the bubble screens. And Campbell went out there, and there was 2 guys crossed him, and he didn't touch either one of them. And I'm like, who are you waiting on? You're out there to block somebody. You're not going to score a touchdown. You don't have the ball. You're just running downfield. And so I'm going to go with the offensive line.
I'm going to get something to do with motion.
No. It's actually, if I'm going all year, I'll be honest with you. As a former defensive lineman, what made me say fudge every time I watch that game is we go down 21-0. Offense stalls out. Defense is coming back out. And I don't see 27 on the field. I don't see 27 on the field. And if he's that special, he's got to have that it factor in him. He's got to want to be out there when the moments count. That's my one that got me
Well,
all
my fudge
season.
1A would
Dropping
be
him into coverage.
dropping him into coverage.
Yeah.
And when he's on the field, he's dropping back into coverage.
I had both those down there. I had motion down there too. So you surprised me on that one. Well overstreet.
I just wide receivers. I mean, you heard so much about these guys. Everybody talked to you about the hype, how great they were. These guys coming in, man, they're going to change the game. Man, they didn't show up. I mean, just another guy on the field. You take a jersey off, throw it on a fan out there. That's the same production you'd have gotten several times this year, right? I mean, I just looked at it and go, these wide receivers, I mean, they weren't SEC level wide receivers. There's nobody special in that group at all. And I just looked at it and said, man, you just got to get a whole other group. You can tell the rest to go to the transfer portal, get 4 more, because these 4 ain't working.
Here, and I said this a few weeks ago on the show, I'll say it again right here. They'll probably grab somebody in the portal, and we'll all go, ooh, look how special he's going to be. And I'm going to say, he ain't going to do nothing. Not because I'm negative, but because everybody they've gotten out of the portal so far has done nothing in terms of receivers. And now, you've had some guys that got a little better their second year. Brew McCoy was a good possession receiver.
Yes.
Solid team leader, good guy, but not the, oh, wow, wait till you see this. Dante Thornton was supposed to be a wow. Chris Brazzell was supposed to be a wow. Squirrel.
Yeah.
He didn't even come from the portal, but yeah. So you look at these guys, I just don't buy that they're going to get somebody out of the portal and they're going to hit in the first year. But I guarantee you we'll be sitting here after the portal closes in a couple months and everybody's going to be drooling over some superstar receiver that they brought in from East Oxnard State because he runs a 4.2 40. And you're going to see him next year, and he will do bupkis. And I don't use the word bupkis lightly. Usually I just use fudge.
So it's reality when you talk negatively, but it's just negative when I talk.
No. Just that you're the rain cloud. That's all. All right.
That's right.
When we come back, trust me, Bob and I are viewed as super negative. So, no. When we come back, where does this season rank among the Vols' best since 2000? This may make you feel positive. Come on back on the Sports. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Scott and Lisa Mellon, hope you all have a spectacular holiday season and a warm, hope-filled Christmas this Wednesday. I thank them for all they do for the Sports Source. All right. Everyone's either bummed out or ticked off today, I know that, or exceedingly negative. But this was just the 6th time since 2000 that Tennessee's won double-digit games in a season. So for all the bummer mood today, this is one of your top 6 seasons of the last 24 years. On the board, we have Chuck over there. We're going to be stacking presents. And the presents we have are 2001. That team went 11-2, won the Citrus Bowl versus Michigan, but lost the SEC title game. 2003, Tennessee went 10-3, lost the Peach Bowl versus Clemson. 2004, that team went 10-3, won the Cotton Bowl versus Texas A&M, but I think lost the SEC title game that year. That was the year Auburn went undefeated and you lost to them twice. 2007, Tennessee went 10-4, won the Outback Bowl versus Wisconsin, lost the SEC title game there. 2022, 11-2, won the Orange Bowl versus Clemson. 2024, 10-3, made the playoffs but lost to Ohio State last night. I think it's interesting, of the last 24 years, 2 of those best seasons have already come under Josh Heupel. Just something to remember. Nice. All right, gentlemen, now we have time. Let's rank these 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the best season there? Will Overstreet, you going to speak up for your own team?
I'm struggling. I think it's either 2001 or I think it's 2022. Just because 2022, you came out of such a long drought. And to have that season, that's a hard one to beat. So I'd probably stack it. Those are the top 2 in my mind, just where you rank them I'd say 22. I'd give it more credit to be up there because of the long drought. So I put it number one.
It ended on more of a positive. So even though you guys beat Michigan, that season is always remembered for the loss to LSU.
Yeah, again, we would have played for a national championship if we
And,
won.
like this year, it would have gone to the Rose Bowl. So I would go 2022 as the best one.
I'm
You
going to go
guys-
2001 because you had a chance to play for a national championship if you hadn't lost to LSU.
Okay, so you're going there for the very reason I wouldn't go there. All right, Sterling.
I'm saying 22, man. 22. I mean, you got 11 wins, man. You win the bowl game. Exciting season. Had such a drought. I mean, 2022. Not taking anything away from this season, but this season was pretty good. Unfortunately, yesterday happened.
And again, we're not ranking the team. We're ranking the season.
Yes.
Mike, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about 2001, you're looking at the year that, man, if we beat LSU, we're playing for a national title. So it stung a little bit. It was great that you beat Michigan. I think the 2022 was special. You lose your quarterback, Hendon Hooker, but they came back and they throttled a Clemson team pretty good.
Yeah.
That, talk about how great Dabble was, and they whooped them.
Okay, so you're going 22.
22, I would say.
Chuck, we're all going 20. What are you doing?
I'm
Bob's
going to go this one just
2001.
because I'm sitting here thinking about the flipping burgers at the end of the season and how big that was for Tennessee. And it was a fairly close game, right? I mean, it was a one-possession game, closer to the end. To pull it out, I think that was just the one to me that goes up to the top of the list.
And I will change my answer because I was going by the team. And I thought that 2001 team was a better team.
Yes,
But
yeah,
yeah,
we were,
the
but we're
season.
doing
Right.
the season.
So I
Right.
will change my answer.
Yeah, that was a legitimate team. I still don't know if you beat Miami that year.
I don't know how
Get a shot.
legitimate they were.
All right, 2001 is number 2, I think.
Okay.
We all agree since that was between
And
down to those
I have to
two.
go public with this. The reason why the 2001 team lost to LSU because your boy Sterling Pearl choked in the quarterback challenge against Tommy Hodson, and I should have made that throw and I didn't. It's my fault. Prior to the game.
I always go with the prowler, but that's just me.
All right, next best season here. I know what I would go with, just in terms of which one felt better, but I'll hold off.
I'm going to go with this season. I mean, you made the college football
Yeah.
playoff
I would
first
too.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
That's a first.
The
Do I get to make a
finality
case or
and-
no?
It's a first. You overachieved. Like you didn't think they would get into the playoffs for a long time. I mean, you thought this was an 8 or 9 win team.
Yeah.
They did a little bit better, even though you got trounced yesterday. I mean, you did get into the playoff. That's a difficult task.
And we beat Florida and Alabama at home.
Well, and it's the expansion of the SEC, right? You were picked 7th. You come in 3rd. You
Tied for second.
You
Lost the tiebreaker to
did
Georgia.
did very, very well. I think this season probably is number 3 just because of all those wonderful landmarks that you achieved. It's a sour taste in your mouth right now.
Yeah.
But when you look back, SEC expansion, you're one of the first teams ever to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty special.
Okay, well, we're not going to go where I'm saying, but I'll make a case for a team that's kind of forgotten, and that's the 2004 team that won the Cotton Bowl. That's the year that they went through 2 freshman quarterback and wound up with Matt Sims? Or no, it was Rick Clausen. You had Schaefer started the year as a true freshman. It was the first year they'd started a true freshman at quarterback. Schaefer got the start. Then he went out and it went to Ainge. Ainge got hurt. You go to your 3rd quarterback. You still wind up in the Cotton Bowl and you win it against a good Texas A&M team that year. I would have put that 3rd because it ended on a positive and it was unexpected, as opposed to this year, which ended on the brutal negative. But these guys all say, Chuck, I'll let you make the call. 2024 is next?
I think somebody's already mentioned it. You're thinking about the season, right?
Yeah.
Beat Alabama, beat Florida, get a playoff spot where so many of us thought you were still a year away, right? So that's why I would go with this one. For the season, beating Alabama and beating Florida, you go to the playoffs. You just can't beat that much unless you just win a playoff game.
Was anybody here on that 2014? Kevin, were you on that one?
No.
Did you guys beat either Alabama or you beat Alabama, didn't beat Florida, right?
We beat Alabama, did not beat Florida.
Oh, you did. You lost to that team. Lost.
We beat Alabama overtime, right?
Beat Florida in Knoxville 30-28. That was the field goal game at the end. Beat Alabama 17-13. I like the 04 team better than this. The 04 season better than this one because it ended on a high note. But we have let's go ahead and do we agree that 04 is next?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want that team that got crushed by Clemson in the Peach Bowl that was making phone calls.
No. No.
Okay, and what was the other one? The Wisconsin, that team lost 4 games. So, okay, there you go. 2022 was the best of the last 24 years. Then 2001, 2024. This year was your third best since 2000, and then 2004. Okay, very good. When we come back, we're going to show you the 2025 schedule, and we're going to make everybody here tell us what the regular season record is going to be. And no one's allowed to say 12-0. Come on back. And welcome back to the Sports Source. On behalf of all of the Sports Source team, the Sports Source crew here, who I want to thank the folks at WATE all year for all the help they've given us. I got 3 directors up there in the booth today, and our audio guy, and Paul, our spectacular studio guy here. But on behalf of all those guys and all of our sponsors that we haven't mentioned by name today, all the ones you've seen their commercials today, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a safe and happy holiday season. We'll be right back here next Sunday. We'll be talking football. We'll be talking basketball. So, 52 weeks a year. That's what we do at the Sports Source. We've been doing it since 2003, thanks to you. So we wish you a very Merry Christmas. Now, let's take a look at Tennessee's 2025 schedule. There you go. Now, when they scheduled Syracuse, this was not a team that you expected to be 9-3. Mm-hmm. So that is an interesting twist. They're playing a good non-conference team. So Syracuse, they're pass happy. That'll be interesting. In Atlanta to open the season. Then you've got East Tennessee State, FCS team. So might as well just bring in Carnes High School. Playing somebody in another division. Go Carson Newman, LMU. Get them to fill the football team. Georgia early in the season again. You flip Georgia and Florida. So Georgia's back to where they were for years and years and years, high up in September. UAB 3-9, always perennial dog. At Mississippi State next year, who was terrible this year. Then you got an open date. Then you get Arkansas here, a team that beat you on the road this year. At Alabama and at Kentucky back-to-back. Then you got Oklahoma back here. An open date to help you get ready for New Mexico State. Another absolute cellar dweller every year. Then you get Florida late. Shades of 2001, Will Overstreet. You get Florida late, and then you close with Vanderbilt. I want to know, you just give me the number of wins regular season. Okay, I want your regular season win predictions. And we'll start over on the left side of the panel here with Marlon Walls. Well, actually, we'll just start with Chuck. Let's go to Chuck, and if we can get to, there we go. Right. We're seeing him. How many wins next year in a 12-game regular season? What are you doing, Chuck?
I tell you what, there's parts about that schedule you like, parts you don't like. I think Tennessee can take a step back. I'm still going to go with 9 wins, and I think we're going to hear that a lot from this group.
Okay. Sunshine we've actually messed the seating up because I rotated them wrong, but let's get you go next.
Let's go next, all right? You said I can't go 12-0?
Can't go 12, so 11-1.
I tell you what I do. 11-0, we'll see what happens next game.
Go ahead and put 12 for Sunshine.
That's right, baby. Let it ride. I'm not giving my balls no loss. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All right. Kevin.
Yeah, no, Chuck's a smart guy. And I would say 9. I think the turning point, it's Oklahoma. They got John Mader. They got Ben Arbuckle, came from Washington State. John Arbuckle's the #1 transfer portal quarterback, so they should be a little bit better. Can you get that game? Are you getting the Florida game? I think those are like turning points.
All right, so what did you do? You're doing 9?
9.
Okay, Ollie, we're still running out of time, so we got to be quick here.
I think just realistically where we're at, what the schedule looks like, I'm going with 9 wins too. I think there's still some differences that they got to make up for.
Okay.
But looking at that.
Bob Hodge.
Very optimistic. I'll go 9.
9. 9 for Bob. Everybody's going 9. Marlon.
9 as well. Oklahoma's going to be a swing one. We'll see.
All right, so then I go.
Cavaliers line.
8. Oh, I'm going 8. So, sorry. I got beat up this week for being Mr. Confidence.
You're so negative. 8.
8 for Mike Stoll. Rain Cloud, what do you got?
8.
Okay, we did have the negative wing over here. But what did you guys say again? 12?
It all averages out.
Thanks to all you guys for being here all year long. Appreciate it. Another year of the Sports Source football shows done in. Couldn't do this without 45 of you taking part every week. You driving in all the time from far off.
With a broken pelvis.
With a broken pelvis. Yeah, and Sterling, you never miss a beat. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for everybody who's played a role in the Sports Source this year. Have a good Christmas, folks, and we'll see you right back here next Sunday.